Here we go.
What? I'm a little disappointed it wasn't fire.
Another waterfall.
Yeah, it's 2 out of 3 now.
Ursula went to an absurd amount of trouble to hide the tusk.
Well, the tusk was the symbol of Hoysala dominance, representing their wealth and their might.
A nice trophy for the Persians.
Yeah. My dad always thought that the tusk was something even greater, though.
What? Your dad was after the tusk?
Oh, my dad was obsessed with it. He spent every day and night researching it. All our money wasted on fruitless expeditions.
Heard that one before. So what came of it?
I don't know. Well, he sent me and my mum away. He said it was no longer safe. And off to Australia we went. And now here I stand on the outskirts of Hullabaloo. That's pretty funny. Last stop. The fort embedded in that mountain. That'll be the one with the axe.
Moving now! I have them!
Let's not do that again.
Shoot them! You cannot win!
Oh, you're great for my self-esteem. This'll make a hell of a racket.
Hello, welcome to another episode, and today we're going to review Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. So, I had a chance to play Uncharted: The Lost Legacy last year when I was working at GameStop. I had an opportunity to receive a code for Uncharted, the deluxe version of the game, which came with the Season Pass. Now, anybody that bought the Season Pass for Uncharted 4 between the launch of that game and December of last year will actually receive The Lost Legacy for free. Otherwise, it is a standalone downloadable content pack that retails for about $40. They actually pressed this thing onto a disc, which is cool. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, it's a weird one for me because Uncharted 4 has arguably one of the best video game endings of all time. It takes a character that you've been through many adventures on with. I mean, they made 4 Uncharted games with Nathan Drake, and they wrapped that game up in such an excellent fashion that I was kind of done with Uncharted when that game was over. And I think that's one of the biggest faults with this game is I kind of was done with Uncharted, but here's more Uncharted. Now, it's interesting to note, obviously, this game does not star Nathan Drake. His story is over. This game stars the character of Chloe Frazer, who was in Uncharted 2. I want to say she's in Uncharted 3, but it's been a long time since I played that. I can't remember, is she in Uncharted 4? You can correct me in the comments below. I don't remember. They might have talked about her, but I don't remember if she showed up or not. But it stars her and then a new character they introduced in Uncharted 4 named Nadine. And they kind of team up and they have an adventure together in India. Now, the character of Chloe Frazer is an interesting one, and making her the protagonist here and the character that you play as, it's cool and it's interesting. The problem I have with it as I'm playing through it is now more than ever, the comparisons to the Tomb Raider series are just incredibly evident. Like, in the ongoing argument between what's a better series, Tomb Raider or Uncharted, I've always been on the other side saying Tomb Raider is. I think the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot is one of the best games of last generation. And the follow-up sequel, Rise of the Tomb Raider, was an excellent follow-up. I enjoyed both those games, especially the first one. And I just think if you go between these two games, the thing that makes Tomb Raider always more enjoyable to me than Uncharted is the combat. And they did something in Uncharted 4, and it is present here too, where they fixed the combat a little bit. And the problem with combat is the aiming is terrible. And I know I'm going to get a lot of heat in the comments about saying that, but it's true. Like, I just don't like the aiming in the combat in this game. I've never found it particularly great. It is serviceable for what the game is, but it doesn't, like, I don't sit down and play Uncharted for the combat. I play it for the story. Whereas when you play these Tomb Raider reboots, you get a whole package. You get some excellent combat, and you also get some excellent, exploration and a story. So in Uncharted 4, what they did was they introduced a hard lock method where you can hard lock to each enemies, kind of like when you're playing either Call of Duty single player, or you're playing, let's say, even like obviously Tomb Raider does this, but most recently that Max Payne 3 allowed this as well. So I played through the entirety of Uncharted 4 with that mode on. It was something I discovered like maybe an hour in. I was like, I wonder how this works, and it worked extremely well, and it made combat more enjoyable for Uncharted 4. It does the same thing here. Now, obviously, Uncharted purists are going to be really angry when I say stuff like that, because they're going to be like, well, I've been playing the game this way for so long. I don't like the combat of Uncharted, and if you're like me and you never liked the combat scenarios in Uncharted, this isn't going to change your opinion. They don't do anything to change that here. One of the positive things I will say about Lost Legacy is it plays like an 8-hour Uncharted experience, and it doesn't outstay its welcome. There was only 2 parts in the game that I felt were kind of challenging. I've only played it on normal because, again, I don't care about playing it at a higher difficulty, especially when I don't like the combat of Uncharted. And through and through, story-wise, I enjoyed this game from beginning to end. I didn't think I wanted to play an Uncharted game that didn't star Nathan Drake, and I walked away from this at the end thinking this was pretty good. Now, do I want to see a full-priced Uncharted game come out starring Chloe Frazer? Probably not. But I think her character was serviceable enough to make a protagonist in an Uncharted story, and obviously this is Naughty Dog's way of kind of gauging and testing the waters of, can we continue making Uncharted games that don't star Nathan Drake? I think the answer to that question is yes, but I think after this download content, they need to take a break from Uncharted for at least 5 years and get it out of people's minds. Go work on The Last of Us Part 2, put that game out, and then think about making another Uncharted. So you're searching in India for this Tusk. Another big positive of this game is obviously the graphical fidelity. Now, if you played Uncharted 4, that game looks drop dead gorgeous. It's one of the best looking games of this generation. I think it is neck and neck with Horizon Zero Dawn as the best looking game that I've played this generation. And Naughty Dog has a really good grasp on graphical fidelity in their games. Now, I played this game on my PS4 Pro. I believe it ups the resolution to 1440p. Again, like the PlayStation 4 Pro, I like the machine, but it doesn't do a good job of spinning out the numbers of what the resolution of each game is. There are some games that actually tell you, but they're so few and far in between. But that's a problem with the PS4 Pro, not with this game. So it runs at 30 frames, and I honestly, I'm going to stand here and tell you, as I've always stated on this channel, I don't care about frame rate. As long as it is locked 30 or locked 60, I'm happy. For this game, it makes sense that it's locked at 30, and honestly, if you're going to sit here and argue that the frame rate should be higher for this game, why don't you just take a step back and look at how good this game looks, and then ask yourself, do you really need that? Because I didn't. And I honestly thought, didn't even cross my mind while I was playing it. So they go on their journey. The opening of this game opens in a market type area in this country, and there's some excellent rain effects. There's a storm that goes on. There's an excellent chase. And then once after you get through that, you kind of get through this big open area. And a lot of viewers and critics have been touting this as like this big open world idea for an Uncharted game, and it's kind of Naughty Dog testing the waters. I didn't really get that vibe when I played it. It just seemed about the same area size as that open area in Uncharted 4, maybe a little bit smaller. I enjoyed that part of the game. I thought it was fun. Of you have to go through these 3 different towers and get pieces of them to open this gate, and you can choose what way you go and how you want to tackle each tower. And I thought that was an interesting part of the game. I really enjoyed that. Obviously, I don't want to spoil the entirety of this story, but I will say, and this is a spoiler alert, and I apologize, The one design decision I thought was interesting in this whole story is they bring back the character of Sam Drake, which is Nathan Drake's brother. So this kind of puts the storyline of this after the events of Uncharted 4, but like pretty soon after, like I would say within a year. And I just thought it was interesting, like throwing that character back in. And they do a good job of writing his character in, giving him kind of a backstory with the character of Nadine. And obviously he has a little bit of a backstory with Chloe as well, even though he was a character that was introduced in Uncharted 4. They do a good job. Naughty Dog is on top of their game when they're with their writing. I think they write excellent games. I think all three of the Uncharteds are like modern day Indiana Jones movies that you play. And that's what made those games enjoyable. And again, they also did The Last of Us. The Last of Us is a different beast entirely, but also an excellently written game. This is no different. You get an excellent story. It's a little more bite-sized than your standard Uncharted, but I think at the 6 to 8 hour length, that's about as long as I would want an Uncharted game. Uncharted 4, as great as it was, and I think it was my second favorite game of last year, I felt that it did overstay its welcome just a tad. It was a little lengthy, but the ending made up for that length. Whereas here, I think 6 to 8 hours playing as a character that's not Nathan Drake is more than fair. Now, this game also introduces a Horde mode that I believe was introduced as a DLC pack for Uncharted 4. I didn't get a chance to test this out, partially because the people that I would normally play these modes with hadn't got their codes yet for the game, so I haven't played that part of it yet, but it looks interesting. So, but it took me roughly about 8 hours to get through the story of this game, and that was, I pretty much beelined from the beginning to the end. I didn't do a lot of exploring or searching for hidden treasures or any of the collectibles or anything like that, but I felt it was good through and through. I enjoyed it. I think that you guys will enjoy it too. If you're a fan of Uncharted, I wouldn't sit here and say it's one of those games that you want to sleep on or anything like that, or don't want to sleep on. Like, it's not some, I don't feel it's a dire, like, you have to get out and get this Uncharted thing. Honestly, I think $40 is a good asking price, but if we're being honest, this thing's going to drop to $20 within a month and a half, because I think it will sell its initial run and Naughty Dog will think it's good, and Sony's going to want to heavily discount it for the holidays. So if you wait like 6 weeks, $20, I think at the $20 price point, this is a perfect purchase decision. I think at $40, it's a little bit high for what it offers, but I think that it's still worth it if you're a fan of Uncharted, if you're a fan of these characters. So, like I said, my only real complaint with this whole thing, other than you're not playing as Nathan Drake, is the combat. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Uncharted combat. I've always thought it's lackluster in comparison to other games that just do it a little bit better, you know, to the Tomb Raider reboots being that. And I just don't like combat when you are put into a combat scenario and you're kind of running around in a circle trying to take cover. Cover system in this game, it's okay, but a lot of the cover is destructible. So it led to two really challenging parts in this game that I thought were over challenging for a normal difficulty. One is at the very end, you have to take on this helicopter, and with that there's also a bunch of heavy armored guys, and this part took a little while because this helicopter can pretty much see you wherever you are. The other part of this game is right after you get Sam Drake, you have to go through a part where you have to get a weapon back because you were tied up and didn't have a weapon at this time. And it's in this cavern. That whole part of the game, they send so many heavy armored guys at you at once that it becomes extremely overwhelming. So those two choke points I thought were a little demanding considering I was playing the game on normal. And it just reminded me of how much I don't care for the combat in Uncharted. But the story is really good. It's definitely worth your time. Naughty Dog is a top-notch developer. They continue to make great experiences. And I know when The Last of Us Part 2 comes out, which is a game that I always said I don't really want or need a Last of Us Part 2, and then they announced it, and now I want to play a Last of Us Part 2. So I think they're always on top of their game, and I look forward to their next adventure, which obviously is The Last of Us Part 2. But I'm happy that this thing exists. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a B-. I think that for what it offers, I think it's definitely worth your time, but I think you can wait a couple weeks until it drops a little bit in price. I think 40 is a little high of an asking price for what this offers, but if you can get it at the $30 to $20 range, it's definitely worth your time. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this review.